Amoka Mom, and I am back with another video. I get this a lot. People saying to me, I have one kid, I'm struggling. Two kids, 3 kids, I'm having a really hard time. It's overwhelming. How are you doing it with 5? I come to your house is clean, your kids listen. First, let me start by saying my house is not always clean and my kids don't always listen. But I'm blessed, by the order that I feel like I have in my home. So I'm going to share a little bit with you about some of the things that I do. So let me start off by sharing a little bit about my pregnancies, because I feel like pregnancy is enough to kill you. It's enough to kill me, how I experience my pregnancies. I suffer from extreme nausea and vomiting. One pregnancy, it was until I delivered her, practically. Maybe by 8 months, I was able to eat. But what it feels like for me is that I'm extremely hungry. I feel like I'm starving all the time, and that causes me to feel extremely nauseous. But nothing tastes good. Nothing stays down. I have very violent retching sessions. When I'm fortunate enough to keep anything down, I violently throw it up. And then, when there's nothing in my stomach, my body is still violently trying to throw up, and I'm constantly running to the bathroom, and all you hear is that loud retching, and it gets exhausting. In the beginning, I'm pumping myself up, it's gonna be okay, it's only for a little while, but day after day, all day of that. And this last pregnancy, I had it throughout the night also. It just really starts to break you down and wear your spirit down. And there's something wonderful growing inside of me, and I know that up here, but my emotions are completely out of whack, and I'm extremely irrational, and I can't, it's not enough to sustain me emotionally, knowing that this is a baby. After you have the baby's gonna come out, it's gonna be this wonderful baby, so you can go through this, It's like I'm in a very black place. I get to the place where I almost could stay in bed, and I've had to stay in bed, not for that, but so that the baby wouldn't come too early, but just sleep and never wake up again. Actually, it's like a symptom of clinical depression. But after I have the baby, I don't experience postpartum blues or depression. People, feeling overwhelmed about the baby being up all night, and the breastfeeding, establishing that, and the soreness and the pain and the discomfort that comes with that. I don't suffer with any of that, because I have my baby and I'm completely in love with the baby. It's almost like someone could shoot 10 arrows into me and burn the soles of my feet, and I'll go through it because here's the baby. I liken that to what I do to manage with my household. I liken that to my relationship with God. Because I hold on to Jesus with a death grip. That's how I do it. I don't do it in and of my own strength. God empowers me to do what I do every day. And sometimes I'm foolish enough to try to do it on my own. And then I go crawling back to him, to get the tools that I need. I find practical tools in the Bible. I find strength and peace through prayer. I find, I pray in the Spirit. I pray in English. I also speak in tongues and pray in tongues. But I talked about my pregnancy because God is very real in my life. There's a back and forth interaction between us. But sometimes it's like that baby that's real in your stomach, but you're struggling to have the real connection with the baby, that's going to sustain you to go through all the discomfort that you go through. What I experience after I have the baby, is not the same as what I experience once the baby is here. God is like that. God is here. The baby is here. But sometimes we struggle holding on to him. But what I've learned is I can't do it by myself. I can't do it on my own. When the baby kicks, it's another, reminder, yes, this is a baby. It's a real baby. You're not sick. You're having a real baby, and that is the same thing with God. When he moves in my life, when things come to pass, I'm like, yes, God is real. He's real. He's, and then something else will happen to pull me into that mindset of doing it all on my own. So You can't do it on your own. I don't do it on my own. I feel like my success is largely due in part to how much I chase God and hold on to him. Try and make sure I pray. It doesn't look like it would for someone who doesn't have kids and constant interruptions. But I try to make sure I get before the Lord. I try to make sure I get into the scripture. I try to make sure I meditate on some of this stuff so that it's actually coming alive in my life. I'm not just reading it like I'm reading a book. I'm internalizing it. You know, I have a favorite scripture. It's Jeremiah 29:11. It says, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. And I've got this scripture in, this is a magnet that I have stuck to my refrigerator. I've got it in plaques. I've got it. It's all over my house. It's my favorite scripture because sometimes when we see the darkness that is going on in this sin-cursed and broken world, we can think that God doesn't have good plans for us or he doesn't really care. But in my personal life, I believe that God is very interested in the mundane aspects of our life. Everything. He wants to be part of everything, and he helps me through everything. And that's how I make it. No lie. That's how I make it. And I stay consistent. If I drop it, I get back up and I get back on a horse and I go back to doing what I know works. So I hope that helps somebody. Be blessed.